Kybernote permissions.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, I passed the message along yesterday, and I'll continue passing it along after this meeting. That's all.
Yeah.
I'll do a little announcement at the end when everybody will be here.
Sounds
After
solid.
we've all talked about whatever you want to talk. Oh yeah, and lastly, so you're up to speed. I created a channel just below yours that's accessible by our members. I wanted to
public?
yeah, I had to make it public.
Yep.
I wanted to lock it to Kybernote only, but my attempts to do that have epically failed, and I was just denying our member the possibility to get inside. So I just had to make it open. Maybe later we can fix that together.
Oh, hey, hold on. So the Kybernaut channel that's above here, I'm gonna make it so that way.
Oh, yeah, I prepared that channel above yours for today's meeting.
Well, I just made it so that people with the Kybernaut tag can join it, and
Right.
everybody can still view it.
Right. That's exactly what we want. And the Kybernote public should stay open to everybody because they're public.
Yeah, let me check that one. Yeah, now everybody should be able to just join the Kybernaut public chat and speak.
Okay, well, we're good to roll.
Theoretically, we have 8 minutes. I'm in the system now. I need to get in a
Right, I'm not
position.
because meeting first. 8 minutes, that's long enough to make a cup of tea, so I'll be right back.
Now's your last bio breaks, tea breaks, etc.
Thanks. Just a minute.
I'm just going to give the Kybernaut tag to everybody that's currently in this channel. If you care enough to be here right now, you probably need to have that tag.
you.
Does anybody actually have a problem with it being streamed? I could either record it or stream it. I think about just recording it for the first one.
Well, I can write this down real quick. Oh, sorry, Alex.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that the record, like the OPSEC value of it is already lost in the fact that it's going to be recorded, and that recording will be watchable. But the question is just whether or not people want to be broadcasted live versus like something. I think we should probably record the first one just in case it becomes a giant shit show.
It won't become a giant shit. You have moderators, people that run large communities.
We need to be able to look back.
Which I've actually been talking to just about a lot of the people that are actively contributing in game to the effort of the
Mm-hmm.
And funnily enough, you have banded together a bunch of very experienced individuals, not just from EVE, but you have basically banded together a lot of individuals that are used to leading gaming communities, sizable clans, sizable online organizations, all that do so as a job, like literally being entrepreneurs and things like.
Yeah.
And of course, you stole all the you stole all the active FC, which is why Eden.com can't get anywhere because we have all the FCs.
I mean, it's problems that I want to have. Let's just put it that way. I agree.
Yeah, that's good problems.
Right. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm recording. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. I was clearing my throat. Hi. Welcome to the first meeting of the Kybernauts. There's a lot of ground to cover, and I'm going to have to leave in 1 hour potentially, so we got to cover it relatively quickly. But everything that's been happening in the last few weeks has become a very big popular thing that has garnered a lot of attention, more so than previous features of this kind. And so I want to talk a little bit about myself and then about the organization and my thoughts for the organization. But I want to stress the fact that, like, ultimately my plans for the organization only matters if they match the collective's understanding, right? Like, we are the convocation outside of the struggle, as it were. So I'm not the only voice here. But that being said, let's jump right into it. I am Ash Rothy. As I've said before, I've been playing the game since 2010. I started podcasting and writing about it in 2013. Started investigating the lore and story in around 2014-15 era. Really got into it around Caroline Starr. hosted several lore panels, and helped build kind of an understanding of the lore, and working with some other people like Arataka Research Consortium over the years to understand both lore and mechanics. Prior to this, I spent about 4 or 5 years in faction warfare, fighting for the Galente Federation, as COO and then later CEO of Aderon Robotics. I also was part of Test Alliance Please Ignore Dreadit squad during World War B. And after that, came back, took over Aderon, and also became the commander of a group that's now known as Federation Uprising. Although after we stopped doing as much faction warfare, they went off to null, and I stopped being as into that whole operation. So then I moved to HiSec to be part of Malro after the war deck changes, and have been working there. Started streaming in the Abyss and whatnot, and then invasions happened, and so started becoming a major invasion, like leading public fleets, and started building up a Malro into what would eventually become, which is the Convocation of Empyreans, which now has over 1,200 members and is focused on helping people engage with EVE Online, with Malro focusing on high security space. Obviously, the Kybernauts thing is a much bigger deal. So that's who I am. Kybernauts itself was actually built by a guy named Opus Magnum, who runs Eve Onion. He's an awesome dude. He's a great web dev, really funny guy, and passionate about Eve. But he came to me saying that he wanted to make this organization be a thing that exists, but he didn't know, or he didn't have the time necessarily to lead it himself. And so I agreed to take over as the CEO of the Kybernauts. So the Kybernauts Corporation is obviously kind of our in-game representation of the players' collective will to join and take part in the Triglavian Collective. And our stated objective publicly, and it has been said both in kind of in universe on forums and to the devs, is for the for us to be entered into full members of the Convocation of the Triglavian Collective. The notion being that, you know, the political argument would be that the Triglavians are simply refugees, and by joining them, we are being disowned by our civilization, and therefore we are becoming refugees of a kind alongside them. And so if they wish for us to commiserate with them, they need to commiserate with us. That being said, this is all just my ideas about it. Like, what the hell are we even going to do with this thing that we have? So that's, again, one of the reasons why I really, really wanted to have this meeting, to talk to you guys and to get some feedback, because it's one thing for me to just make some decisions on my own, but a lot of you guys are the ones that are out there making things happen. You guys see things that I don't. Whatnot. I have been largely working with Isabel and others to ensure that we have the tools that we need and information necessary out there, because in my opinion, information assists the Kybernauts, right? The Edencom's tasks are all in HiSec, and they're all things that they've basically been doing for at least a year. And so the Edencom, job is very straightforward. Ours is not. Ours requires, if we go off the wrong systems, if we aren't coordinated enough, if we can't deal with the null blocks, if we can't fight in low sec, if we can't outgrind them in their own PvE, if any of these things fail, we fail. And so what that means is that the more organization that we can build, the more information that we can get out there, and the more people that we can get to understand not just that they want to contribute, but also how to contribute, because the UI is explicitly built to not allow, to not bring them into a path of contributing to the Kybernaut ways, which makes sense because Concord, establishes what our UI looks like. So, that's my perspective on the matter. So my personal goal is about ensuring the ease of accessibility, understanding, and to get involved and feel productive and be part of the war effort. All right, so I have a few things that I'd like to kind of go over. And if anybody wants to say anything, you can always just raise your hand in the Cybernauts General. If you can't talk in Cybernauts General, and you should be able to, please DM me and I'll get you the Cybernauts tags. That way you can.
Can
know what I'm talking
about. Can you re-say your last sentence? Sorry, I had to switch network, so I missed your
I was
last.
just saying, anybody who wants to say any, as I'm talking, if you need to say anything, just raise your hand in Cybernauts General. And if you don't have Cybernauts General, DM me, and so that way we can get you the Cybernauts tag on Discord. We have a few people that are all labeled as Cybernauts directors. Those people can apply the Cybernaut tag. What's up? What's up, Shepard?
Cybernaut tag, but I can't see the channel.
Okay, I'll look into that. What's up, Shepard?
All right. Well, everything you say is pretty much where everybody is on track. The question regarding what you said was your idea that we eventually became literally part of a Triglavian collective, both lore-wise and probably in-game-wise, that requires some cooperation from CCP. That's unprecedented. We have ways to push it up to them, like you explained, the political and the background of why such a request could be made. It can also be said that right now we are fighting for our entry ticket into the Triglavian collective, as we're fighting for them. So we'd be deserving of a Kybernaut clade of our own at the end of all this. I think everybody will be positively engaged with that. However, the feasibility of it, we don't know about it. So the most, how will I phrase that the best? What's the B plan? Just because Kybernaut will...
Yeah. No, totally. So let me be clear. The purpose of that demand isn't just to get the Cybernauts into the Triglavian collective. Obviously, that's a huge ask, and just for clarity, I am not only just doing it publicly, but I've personally privately talked to several of the CCP devs. And one of the things I'd like to ask them about, and as we move forward, although so far I've been kind of coy about it, is whether or not this is even something that will be entertained at all. But the point of this is drama, right? Because if that is our demand, then the Triglavians have to react to that demand one way or another. Even if they don't react to that demand, that is its own action, and then we have to make a decision about what we want to do based on that. So the purpose behind this is that if CCP is going to drop such a big hammer as invasions, then I feel like the message that we put back should be just as radical. So if they are not going to be doing that, then I kind of want that to potentially rise as a sticking point between the Triglavians and the Cybernauts, potentially in the future. Now, that being said, one of the reasons why I explicitly wanted to bring this up is because there is a rising Kybernaut alliance going on in the game right now that has requested us to be part of it. And so now I have a predicament, because my plan was for us to not have an alliance, such that way we can be ready to be moved into the Triglavian collective if that ends up being the thing that we do. But at the same time, I feel like at a certain point that is a pipe dream, and if there is an actual alliance that would like us to be participating, that the membership would like to be participating with, that is a whole nother issue. Now, to complicate this further, I'd like to point out that I also run the Convocation of Empyreans, which is has a major industrial effort and controls or has resources and assets throughout HiSec. And we are preparing to use the Convocation of Empyreans in order to support our efforts through like supplying war machine efforts and industrial program and whatnot. And in fact, in the channel right now, I think, was earlier, maybe not anymore. Let me see. Nope, she's not here right now. GoJess was listening in, who is the COO of Mauro. And so the idea is that as we can assess our needs, the Convocation of Empyreans can focus on providing those needs, such that we probably wouldn't need like an alliance per se. That being said, I also don't want to be like a divisive force among the Kybernauts. So I really wanted to bring this entire puzzle out into the open so that people can at least know what's going on and there's not so much confusion. I actually don't know anything about the actual alliance itself.
Well, that
Or
makes it
you-
quite hard
ramen
to
up?
make a decision.
Because, you know, like another thing that might be thought about is how is this going to impact our gameplay if we join the alliance? Is that going to mean that are we going to be war decked now? So we can't, for example, what I do, I usually run the PvE sites for Triglavians, you know, run in low sec, and then go do incursion in high sec, you know. So are we going to be war decked now? Or maybe the better choice is have one corp that blues us and we use their facilities. This way we can do whatever we want and we don't even have assets to be war decked.
Real quick, just out of curiosity, because this is actually
Who's
a
us?
really interesting thing that I've heard people weigh into both things about without anything else. Let's actually bring up a different question. So it has been brought to my attention that several people would like the Kybernauts to focus on occupying these Triglavian zones once they've been converted into Triglavians, including owning structures. Now, we could theoretically do this through a holding corp and whatnot. However, if we did it within the Kybernauts itself, it would make us war eligible. Historically, I've been under the notion of using holding corps, using other things to make it so that the main body force is not war eligible. But at this point, I would like to give anybody an opportunity to X up in Kybernauts General if you believe that we would be best served by having internal structures in the corporation or alliance and therefore be war deck eligible. Does anybody actually feel like that's the thing that we should do? Yes, what's up?
I'm going to explain a tiny little bit of gameplay here. If we did it, we will do it through a holding corp, because personally, I think it's a terrible idea to put us, the Kybernauts, and the group in a position where we can be war deck. So we can have a holding corp where there is just outs sitting in it, so they can be war decked all you want, and then that corporation makes us blue. Us, the Kybernauts. So we can use all the facilities owned by that corporation, that fake front owned by our outs, and they can declare war on our outs, but they can't do anything to us. If they threaten the structures, we can always decide to join our outs war to defend them, but we don't have to either. We can also win not their game.
Right, and I appreciate you bringing that up. To bring it out of the hypothetical, I will say this. The Convocation of Empyreans has like 15 or so structures, but the Convocation of Empyreans itself is not war deckable. We have a holding corporation that holds all of our structures, And as a member of the Kybernauts, I'm pretty sure that A, you are blue to the Convocation of Empyreans, and B, you should be able to use all of our services in all of our structures today as if you were a member of the Convocation itself. So if you go to Pamene, there should be several Athenors that you have access to. There's a Raitaru for manufacturing. There's 2 Asterhuses. And several other structures, and we will be deploying more structures. One of the things that we've been talking about doing is deploying a Raitaru 1 system away from a target system, so that way we can continue to construct supplies and have them on contract. Right now, we have at the EY whatever invasion. They're all just triangles to me. The Mimitar Hisek 01 Blue Star invasion. We have a whole bunch of hulls ready to go. Unfortunately, it's only the hulls, and so we need to get the fits and stuff in place. But we're getting closer. But long story short, the idea is that I think that the correct answer would be, as it was said, like we can have a holding corp. We could either use the same holding corp as the other one, or we could use a different one in the future. But I think that it would be a good idea for us to have territory through a holding corp and then have the Kybernauts corporation itself not be associated with that, or not be directly attached to that, especially given the fact that the territory that we plan on holding is going to be nullsec, and therefore there is no actual concern with having to come and aid in the war, because the actual fight itself will not be happening under Concord if that's the case.
Indeed.
Okay.
And yes, occupying future.
So that being said, what I'm gathering out of this is that we are interested in doing the whole RP bullshit of asking Zoria to let us into the convocation, but we also are interested into looking into the current growing Triglavian alliance, assuming that they are not war deck eligible. Is that pretty much an assessment of where we're at with that one?
Personally, I'll roll with it.
Cool.
And as for historical record, I love your idea of us becoming part of the Triglavians, but I do honestly think it's a pipe dream.
It's probably not possible.
Yeah, so totally building the alliance from the get-go and looking at running a good chunk of it will be maybe better serving our purpose.
Exactly. To be clear, okay, so just to make sure that everybody is on the same page about this, the reason why I did it this way is because the Triglavians have been sending us messages to work with them for a year now, and has basically given us nothing when it comes to actual respect or a bone or actual instructions for what to do, to include these current sun situation. So the idea is that we're channeling our angst about being mistreated by the Triglavians into this demand about being seen as equals by the Triglavians. So again, this is not a demand that was made to be successful. It was a demand to make that issue in the forefront. I will reach out to the Alliance. What's up?
Demand while reaching out to the Alliance?
No, I will be reaching out to the actual the Triglavian Alliance that's growing and ask them questions and stuff. Because if it ends up making sense, I will put out information to everybody again, and we'll talk about it. I won't just join the Alliance without having another little hubbub about it. But this gives me enough information that I can continue forward. And I just want, like I said, I needed a sanity check to make sure that I wasn't the one running away with the Alliance or with the corporation and just being like, no, you all are going to live in my RP fantasy world now. That is definitely what I wanted to avoid.
Reality check.
Okay. So, a couple things. First of all, Kybernauts.space. We're hitting this hard. It's getting better and better and better. We're about to be able to do fleet deployments via Kybernauts.space, which is pretty awesome. If you're not in it, get in it. We hope to have guides available soon. It has an OAuth process, so that way we can get you in there. If you are an FC, Or if you want to help keep all of our chronicling information up to date, because it is right now all of the information for invasions are maintained by hand. So if you want to step up for either of those things, then go ahead and let me know, and we'll talk about getting you we'll get you the permissions that you need on the website.
Cyrus Aurelius needs.
Okay, well, just DM me the stuff, and I will go through them and take care of them real quick after this is done, hopefully. But yeah, so this website is designed to be our information center. So if you guys have feedback about it, if you want to thoughts or whatever, please let me know. Isabel's been doing a great job. We're looking into getting other people involved to make things happen. But I'm really excited about what it means, especially since you have kybernauts.space/invasions, which tells you all of the invasions, including the minor victories, and kybernauts.space/discord, which gets people directly into Discord. So feel free to use this. It looks pro as fuck, like to post it on the forums or on the internet or in local or whatever. It's not just some random Discord URL. It's a fucking website, kybernaut.space, and that has an impact in the psychology of things. So yeah. In addition to that, though, I want to start putting more information on kybernauts.space. We also have a handbook that we're in the process of making. So once again, if you are interested in helping out with the contribution of that handbook, it isn't ready to be rolled out yet. I plan on working on it more this week to make sure to see if we can roll it out ASAP. But I want to put everything that people need to know in order to get involved and be successful within our organization, with links to the proper places that they need to get more information, so that way we can keep those links up to date for things like fits and stuff. On that subject, if you go to my workbench, eveworkbench.com/u/Ashrathi, you will find all of the Kybernaut invasion fits that I know of that are approved so far. We do have a naming convention. I have unilaterally decided that we use gemstones as our naming convention. So we have Topaz, Sapphire, Emerald, and Ruby to represent the 4 empires. And then we have Solitaire for solo builds and Mosaic for fleet builds. The goal would be that these fits could, as much as possible, reconfigure between the two, but not necessarily between races. Xavier, I understand. One of the things that I want to do, and one of the feature requests I put in is a filter set at the top, so that way you can select to only show cards within a specific condition. We also have a mapping tool. Fits on the website? Yeah. So we plan on partnering up with Eve Workbench to store and maintain our fits. I want to get as much information about these fits as possible. There's a thing that I call a ship kit, which is ship, fit, skills, and guide, right? And all of those can be on Eve Workbench at one time, including a video, whatever. And as much as we can of those, that would be the holy grail for pretty much every single fit. That being said, Workbench also has an API, so that way we can pull from that data and display it on a website too.
To make things clear, other resources is talking about are aimed at people that will be joining EVE or that have not been in EVE in a long time, that don't know anything about the Triglavians, are interested in the gameplay, that would like to get into acting as a Triglavian ASAP. That will be the focus of all that. That is support material, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things to do, and a lot of this is going to just require manpower. So, if any of these pieces sounds interesting to you, one of the things I've ran into in the past historically is that a lot of people like to identify what it is that is missing or needs to be done, but not a lot of people want to put in the work to actually make that happen. It seems like there is a lot of energy here, though, and so I want to make sure that anybody with the correct energy who is interested in making these things happen are empowered to do so. So I've been asking for people to like DM me with what they're interested in, and a lot of other people have, a lot of the people that have been privately or whatever squirreled off and introduced to GoJess, who's my kind of my administrator at this point. So we're trying to get, like, in particular, I'm trying to get the industry problem solved, because if you can just go to the invasion area and have ships ready to go on contract, ready to sell to you for like 5% markup, I think that is the single most value added thing that we can possibly do. And then having solid guides and tools available to people is probably number 2. So that's our focus. That's my focus. And that's what I'd like to see if we can get as many people kind of rallied behind. Obviously, all of the in-game stuff, the taking of the objectives, the leading of fleets, the contributing to fleets and stuff like that, all incredibly important stuff. But, what?
It's great. I just typed about that.
Yeah. So, the important thing to realize is that all of these efforts are required for us to be victorious. So the good news is that means that, if you're more passionate about one side over the other, both sides needs help. So, just know that we're going to continue to work on infrastructure. If you run into if you are trying to make things happen in game and you're running into problems, contact me immediately with whatever problem that you are running into. So that way, either I can help you solve it yourself, or we can reorient the entire universe to solve your problem for you. If you're making the Kybernaut effort move forward, then we need to solve your problems.
I may have to introduce myself at this point too. So I'm V Shepherd. Hello, as Hiroshi. I've joined the Cybernauts recently. My history in terms of a gamer will be, I've been touching everything MMO and major culture for a long time. I'm the founding father of DPSO, one of the founding fathers of DPSO, which is a very large gaming online community. I've just stepped down as I joined Cybernauts of my role as a command officer, which is the equivalent of being director of the community that has 100,000 active person per day and owns 1,000 slot TS. So I've stepped down over there from my role. I hold over there a holding title that makes me a founder. And I'm now dedicating my time and effort to making the Cybernaut the same kind of community I'm hoping, but for Eve, that we were able to put into place with DPSO over the course of the last 7 years. That's kind of my gaming background. DPSO not being a Eve entity at all.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and I, as far as the community goes, I built the Tweet Fleet Slack, which was very popular until I left it during World War B in order to separate my political in-game stuff from my political out-of-game stuff, and then obviously, the Fed Up and the Convocation of Empyreans. So we actually have a lot of really high pedigree folks in our organization. And that's why a lot of this is not going to just be me egotistically declaring from on high what it is that our alliance is doing or our corporation is doing, because I understand and respect the fact that we have some truly luminary people in their fields that are contributing to the Cybernauts. So to me, it's more about identifying what strengths we have and empowering them to get shit done. What's up, Sias?
So, you described our political goals earlier, and as I understand it, our focus is like a bit RP, right? So,
well, okay.
Do we want to, I disagree a little bit about how my character, for example, would see the role of Triglavians, less as refugees and more like fuck the empires, anarchist style things.
Mm-hmm.
But What about doing some RP stuff actually, like, for example, staging a demonstration in front of the Arataka Research Consortium home base or something like that? In scope?
So, first of all, I want to say that each individual person and character gets to decide why he or she wishes to support the Triglavian effort. As an organization, we have to have a kind of politically correct cover, which is why our needs and whatnot. I mean, like if you want to talk about personal headcanon, Ashrathi's doing it because she hates Concord and she thinks that she can use the Triglavians against them. She doesn't care about the Triglavians either. She'll just likely destroy them just as easily once she gets the power that she needs from Concord. So, don't think, like your individual, goals and whatnot. That being said, things like protests, any kinds of things like that. I think it's really fun and cool, and I think that this is one of the things that this video game kind of opens up the availability for in a really interesting and meaningful way. The other piece of it is that this ends up being really good propaganda. If you can do these kinds of events in such a way that gets a big enough splash that people notice it, then it could potentially bring people into your cause. That being said, I will caution everyone that the political situation in real life right now is incredibly tense. And it may seem edgy and it may seem funny, but like there's a lot of people that aren't amused right now by a lot of racial tension and other like systemic authority problems, et cetera. And so while it might be tempting to make jokes and it would seem that the Kybernaut like in-game reality kind of lends itself to functioning as a mocking parallel to the current political crisis in the real world, I would encourage us to avoid to err on the side of caution when it comes to that, because that's a line that if we cross, it no longer becomes funny and it's no longer a video game.
And we don't want that to affect us as a corporation at all.
Yep. So it's cool as long as it all remains video, in video game, and we can do the protests and like there's so like I don't know if you guys have been paying attention local in any of these invaded systems, but the back and forth and the banters and the debates about who's right and who's wrong, like that's one of the most fun things to me about all of this. So if we can bring that out and we can really like drive home this conflict, this disagreement about life and who deserves it and who deserves a space in New Eden and whether or not baseliners are important and whether, all these different questions that get brought up by this crisis in universe. I think that we can use them as leverage points to forward our agenda for sure.
We have to define a political line for the Cybernauts, basically why they left Concord and all those things. We've pretty much been doing it. I've been following what's being said in general by our fleets. The points of why we are Cybernauts, I've noted them. Let me take my notes. Okay, so we are Cybernauts because empires are oligarchies in one way or the other, and the power structures as well in high-sec as well as in null-sec have been frozen into place and do not move anymore. There is no way people can get upward climbing momentum, no new organization. So people want to join the Triglavians because of that. They want to break away from what they call the tyranny of those, in power. Right. Number 2, we are joining the Triglavians because you got cool shit. No kidding. That is one of the main arguments. We have cooler ships than yours. That's cool. I can roll with that. Triglavians are masters at salvaging, and interestingly, the what would you call that? Post-human idea gets brought up in the light that that's a question that everybody is going to be asking himself in New Eden. We are capsulars. We are seen as kind of worthy. We get to be trialed by the Triglavians. That's an invitation that they've given us, approving. But in Empire space, not everybody is like us, a capsuleer. Not everybody doesn't have immortality and clones. In Triglavian society, they all are capsuleers, even for they even have even weirder stuff. But they are all immortal in the sense of being a capsuleer. So the demand, also political, is like we demand that the population be given the same life, what will do, immortality, I guess, as we have, the same advantages.
That's an interesting position.
Uh,
I posted the Concord Charter real quick. I posted the Concord Charter in Kybernauts Discord chat just to make sure that everybody understands it and hears it. It says, to protect the rights of civilizations to grow and to prosper, to preserve the surviving sovereignties of the Dark Ages, to serve justice to those immortals who abuse the privileges of everlasting life, to safeguard the mortals of worlds from dangers which originate in space, to prevent Empyrean technology from causing the destruction of humanity. So I would argue that we did not leave Concord. We were never part of Concord. We are separate than Concord. Concord has always been our watchdog. Concord has always been specifically designed ever since the creation of the Empyreans to keep us down.
Under their boot. Yep.
And to protect the Dark Ages empires, which that's why the 4 empires get chosen. For example, the Angel Cartel is just as big and powerful as any of the other empires, but because they're not a Dark Age civilization, they didn't get the same rights and authority of the rest of the empires. They got like politically maneuvered out. So it's shitty from the beginning, guys. Let's just keep that in mind.
And on the post-human issue, just to finish that, why are the Triglavians attractive, and why, if it's a good reason to side with them, and also why are they attacking the sleepers, and why are they hate the Sencha and things like that? Okay, Triglavians are the only posthumans that are old enough to be called precursors, and they've remained organic. Every other society that has been posthuman for that long turned themselves into machines, or they literally turned themselves into energy and decided to fuck off from the galaxy altogether. So they're the only, if we want to stay biological, if we want to stay human, the human constituent of us exist in a post-human society, Triglavians are literally the only society that has done it. So that's a good argument for joining them.
They're also the only ones that's actually talked to us. Asherothis have been trying to make contact with the Drifters for like 5 years.
They're also the only ones that Zoria has an OnlyFans.
Did we discuss what about the
Like that?
This has also been trying to make contact with the Drifters for quite some time, honestly.
Did we discuss what kind of goals the corporation should have?
Yeah, so we did talk about how our goal, like we talked about our kind of RP goal, our tactical goal is, of course, to secure as many systems for the Kybernauts as possible. As I mean, obviously, we're going to prefer high sec and high priority targets over low sec and low priority targets. I would prefer it if we happen to avoid specific systems in Galente space that would be inconvenient to the convocation of Empyreans.
Okay.
But, like, I would say that if, like our crown jewel would be going after Niarja, for example.
It's not a problem.
That being said, I find it difficult to, like, I don't think we know enough about this content yet to be able to say what our high-end goals are beyond just engaging with this content.
For having talked with most of the FCs and the alliances that they represent at one point or another, what everybody expects out of this content, besides shaking up the current existing structures, basically everybody is hoping that CCP is using the Triglavian as a hammer to shake things up, and by playing into their hand, by playing with Triglavians, by RPing them, we are giving them the power to actually land the hammer on things that they may want to change within the game. One thing is pretty much certain at this point, we're not looking at a lore aspect here, purely a dev aspect, with the lines of ships that they've been bringing out, with the way that everything they've done with the systems, with the way that they scripted long conversation with Sledge and AI, and making NPCs do very scripted things in the universe, which it was never designed for. Anyways, Triglavian systems will be a thing. There will be a moment where there will be Triglavian systems. Everybody is in accord that we want to occupy that space, because it will be no space that will be... We don't know if it will be connected or not, but it will be space that will be new. There is no blocks that own it yet. So we want to be the block already that has set their foot forward and say, hey, this space will be ours, and we're friendly with the NPCs that are in it. Sorry.
In
that
addition, the effort to make a Fight Club type environment area, like just a brawl pit, has always been kind of a thing that nullsecers have attempted to do on various different times in various different places, Syndicate, Fight Club, etc. And I think that, you know, in this XCV 2, it says, you know, the flow shall cleave, and cladistic proving will begin anew in the ancient domains. And what I've realized is that this territory that they're making, in the way that they are making it, is the best place ever for tournaments, for battleship brawling, for every kind of PvP that the game itself doesn't allow you to lend itself to because of the open nature of things, and you know, the sinos and bushes and bubbles and all that sort of stuff. Like, all of those things limit the kinds of engagements that you can consistently get into, and this greatly opens that up. And I think that that is the real potential of these systems, and why I think that it is important for several of them to be taken. It's not just making something from high sec to null sec. We are making a kind of space that has never existed before in EVE. A new kind of null sec. So, kind of important. That being said, like, the consequences of aiding the Triglavians is going to be just something that we have to deal with.
Support.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, well, we're going to support them, and then they're going to rip apart reality, and then we're going to go, oops.
And then we'll go do it again to Jove space.
So, the biggest thing that I need from you guys, as to wrap things up a little bit, is to focus on ensuring that everyone assume that people don't know what's going on right now, and assume that even the people that do know what's going on don't have all of the information, because it's very difficult for anyone to have all of the information right now. So, you know, if you see new people coming into a system, like, one of the biggest failure points right now is that people coming in that T up or X up or whatever, they don't get invited, they don't get brought in, they don't have answers, they get confused and lost and whatever. And it may be the fact that, like, we don't have stuff for everybody at any given at all the times, but like, every single person that we can save and help, like, orient correctly and stuff, is another potential player that is going to be help us in our success. Identifying our points of failure and catching those people and getting them on the right track is absolutely pivotal. So to that account, as I said, there's going to be fits on my workbench. If you have anything else, any other builds that you think is successful in these environments that should be on my workbench, let me know. You know, send me them right away.
I think you should take the fits that we currently use in Swarm, and
they're all there.
In what are they already there? The Swarm and the
Swarm and Beta are already there.
Okay, well, good enough. Yep. Sorry, I don't know. I didn't catch the link to your fits.
Yeah, it's workbench.com/u/Ashrathi, and I hope to have that be on the Discord or on the Kybernauts.space website soon. I just wanted to flesh out some of the ship lines. first, because I only have a few topaz and a few emeralds, but I have no rubies, no sapphires yet. So
Can you post like the actual links
Yep.
somewhere?
Mining fits are good too. Like seriously, like, well, and that's the thing, is that we need to help people understand that it's more than just the content that they have seen, right? There is huge mining potential with Triglavian, especially with the way that standings works. It won't take much to get your standings fixed, so that way none of the rats will attack you. There is really good industrial opportunities, obviously, but there's also, so one of the things that people did last year to make a ton of money was, we could definitely do free ventures, but I think mining barges would be more successful. But either way, so emerging conduits last year, huge moneymaker. They are back. They're called forward posts if we want to run them, and not only do they show up inside of the invaded systems, but they also show up in all minor victory sites and systems. So if you go to Kybernauts.space/invasions and you scroll down to the minor victories, if you go to a minor victory that is owned by the Kybernauts, then you will get, I think, 1 or 2 forward posts. And if you go to a system that is a Edencom minor victory, then you'll get 4 forward posts. Forward posts respawn every 10 minutes, so up to 2 groups, 1 to 2 groups can be running at a time, and the payout is full payout for the first 3 people, 6 million ISK per site, not including the salvage or loot. So 2 combat pilots and a Noctis, or even 3 combat pilots and a Noctis. I did it with 2 Leshaks and my Nestor, not actually the most efficient setup, and we were making 70 million ISK an hour each, without any including of ISK, or without any including of loot and salvage. So
the forward posts, the staging areas are the first tier ones. Forward posts are a little higher.
Forward posts are tier 0. Field bases is tier 2. For staging areas is tier 1.
Right. All right. Yeah. So you can totally solo those in something like a rattlesnake.
Absolutely. Yep. And they are roughly the same strength as an emerging conduit. So my Nestor was able to solo it. The triple wrap Drek can solo it. All of the solitaire builds basically on my workbench can solo the field bases of that type, or the forward posts of that type.
So 2 feeding nesters, basically self-repairing, self-boosting each other, cap boosting each other, destroys those with their drones, basically, without
totally
taking
easily.
damage.
Yep. Without we did it with dual nesters and a Drek, and we were a little bit slower. The double Leshak is really good. Probably is going to be one of the best combos. I can
totally see it.
2 nesters, that's a little bit overkill for a miners.
Well, it's a tier 0, but I mean, like, the key is that you just run. So we ran them for 2 hours, and I made a couple hundred.
It's a minor. It's not emerging.
It's an emerging. Yeah, it's an emerging.
Okay, emerging. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Drukovic is fine too.
Yeah.
The issue is that these rats are willing to go all the way out to like 60 kilometers, and so it ends up. Yeah, exactly. The problem actually ends up being just killing them, not like being able to project and apply more than being able to save yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, but most importantly, like, using these, we now have 2 Edencom minor victory systems. So now people can start grinding to get money, and more importantly, standings, So what I'd recommend doing is anybody who's just coming in, anybody who's interested, the very first thing that we should catch somebody and say, hey, stop. 1, have you fixed your overview? 2, have you fixed your standings? We need to fix people's standings before they come to the emerging conduit, or to the actual systems and contest. If we could simply, if we could have people go to one of these minor victories and just run a couple of the sites just to get a tick or 2 of their standings fixed, so that way when they come in, they don't get instantly blapped by a bunch of trig. We actually lost a Nestor and a Drek yesterday because I got greedy and tried to bring in some people to get their standings fixed in the actual invasion itself, and we waited just a few seconds too short, and we landed on grid before her tick happened, and Go just lost her Nestor.
At least,
But,
So be very careful.
at least you didn't lose a golem.
Nope, at least you didn't lose a golem.
Yeah, didn't somebody
Correct.
lose like a 5 bill golem to game?
yes, we made fun of Eden Come.
Yeah.
We made big fun of Eden Come because of that. Yeah, 5
Alright.
bill golem destroyed.
Can we make corporation buyback system for Triglavian ore? Yes. I will buy back any Rakavine or Telassanite.
All right.
So,
that's,
as I said,
that's
like,
really
like
interesting to know.
the COE has like full Convocation of Empyreans has a full industry program. Pretty much anything that you could possibly need or have, we have a buyback for in theory. Abyss loot, mining loot, mission loot, exploration loot, because we build it all. We support the Dodixie trade hub, and now we're going to be supporting these invasions. So we have lots and lots of money churning and all that stuff there. And this is the goal is that Kybernauts' effort, and really, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, we're probably going to become filthy rich funneling equipment to both sides. But I digress. It'll be our buyback program that gets funded. What?
That's how it be.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you're,
Hey,
if you're going to be an armed
we
killer in a war,
Kybernauts.
you better support both sides. I openly started calling us the Rothschilds, but you know, maybe East India Company is more appropriate. Anywho, the long story short is that we do like there is just under the water like a whole system for that. So assume that we have somewhat of a functional system, and you can either talk to myself or GoJess to access it.
Eventually, what will be nice is that we have multiple ranks within Kybernauts. I've seen that you've created a few. That's free is sufficient. Basically, you've got your entry recruit that just get information and pointers. Also, knowing that he's a recruit, it helps older people knowing that he needs pointers. You've got a basically rank that say he's a proven Kybernaut, so he knows how to handle himself, but he's still a bit green on the edges. And then you'd have your experienced person. Oh, okay, he's been experienced, he's been working his butt off for the Corp, he's been doing the content the way that we want to do content. Eventually, the what we will do call that, the carrot that we could put for people to get themselves into that position is, since we want to RP lightly at least maybe, is probably finding a way to give out or at least replace Triglavian lost holes. I'm not talking fits, I'm talking holes.
Yeah. And so the good news is that while I don't have anything to announce today, I will say that an SRP, or at least a ship like provisional program, in other words, like just letting you guys use like corporation equipment and blow it up willy-nilly, one or the other, like funded equipment is on the horizon. We have too much IS coming in, we have too much support, we have too much, people offering to take part and contribute to it for us to not have some sort of SRP or some sort of cool like carrot like that. I can't give you guys the details yet because this is all very, very new. Right now we just have a bunch of people that have messaged me because they're interested in X or Y or Z. I like the idea of focusing on Triglavian hulls. Ironically, we've already been focusing on Triglavian hull production over all other production, and armor and all that stuff. So this basically fits directly into what we were already planning for. So it's kind of convenient.
I told you, I'm here to make things convenient for you.
Well, no, I mean, like, this whole invasion thing, like, it's weird because, like, we've been doing things as an organization, preparing for something, not knowing what we were preparing for because everything's been such flux this last year. And, like, this has really made all of the things that we've been doing make a ton more sense, right? Like,
because none of us get to to the devs. Oh, sorry, let's got something in.
Well, I mean, like, so for example, when I was like, I need something to focus my industry program on. I was like, I know, we'll make Joe Dixie into a market again. We'll make Joe Dixie into the Triglavian market. So we were already focusing on like getting everything that a Triglavian pilot would need in one place, anyways, for a totally separate reason. That being said, I do want to stress that I have not actually reviewed the corporation roles or its the entire corporation's like actual structure itself. I do want to do that this week. I know that a lot of it was built by Opus, and I'm sure a lot of it was pretty good. But I do want to make kind of a thing. And the other thing is that we can tie it to the web site, such that like, so if somebody hasn't done all of their checklist, or if somebody hasn't been signed off, then they're considered a rookie. Once they've become once they've achieved these things, then they become a member. And once they've been contributed in at least so many campaigns, because each one of these sites is their own campaign, then they can become considered a veteran, for example. But we'll continue that discussion ongoing. Obviously, now everybody here has access to the Kybernauts General channel. You can also always DM me. I really wanted to make this meeting an opportunity for us to say, hey, this isn't just a bullshit thing. Like, if we want to make something out of this, I can't ignore an organization that spontaneously gets 100+ people and generates somewhere between 10 to 30 million ISK a day. Like, y'all clearly want to have a corporation, so I wanted this to be the starting point of being able to discuss our corporation as a formal entity.
I would say something about the possibility of those player alliances.
Go.
Well, like right now, it seems like there's a lot of uncertainty as to what direction CCP is going to go with these systems and whatnot. But the one thing we know for certain is that some of us have positive standings to the Trigs, and some of us have negative standings to Edencom. And that is one tangible thing that we all have in common. And I feel like we should build on that and find like-minded people that are finding themselves in the same situation.
You're right. And I think that the good news is that the invasions themselves lend themselves to this task. Because, like, when you go to a minor victory, you're going to start running, forward posts, and another dude's going to show up. And, there's you guys got to share, otherwise you're going to have to stop, and the loot and the ISK is shared anyways. So either this is going to become a problem, or you guys are going to be able to be friends and do the site faster. And sure, not every single interaction is going to be positive, but we're going to recruit people that way.
Now, our biggest recruiter, and that's an issue I wanted to address to you directly before you run away. Our biggest recruiter, our biggest everything, is the fact that we participate in Swarm and in Zeta Fleet. So, what I need this to be like black and white right now, so I know where I can take it in the future. What's our relationship with Swarm leaders and Swarm as like, where do they stand regarding Kybernauts? And where are we heading with them? Are they just there for the invasion?
Yeah.
They're gonna afterwards?
So,
like,
I'm going to answer this question a little bit more broadly and change it to the question of how are we, as Kybernauts, as a corporation, going to be interfacing with non-Kybernaut corporation efforts within the Triglavian Initiative? And
as long as it moves in the favor of the Triglavs, we're all.
Bingo. That's the biggest key. So I come from Faction Warfare Militia. In the Faction Warfare Militia, you don't get to choose who your allies are. And because of that, I have picked up a mentality of I am willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with me. So as long as their ideals and as long as their goals and as long as their stuff is forwarding our advancements, then I am more than willing to throw everything about it and, support them. That being said, my strategy for this and the reason why Kybernaut.space is so important is because, in my opinion, the way that we're going to deal with all of these other egos is that if we own the well that they come to get their water from, then they listen to us.
Yes, that's why the Discord is a pivotal point so far, and the entire effort. Without this Discord, none of what you're talking about will have put itself into place.
Which is why I haven't moved us to the Convocation Discord, which is why I haven't moved us to our own Discord, which is why I think that working in this Discord is the correct answer. Sorry.
It is. I totally agree with you. Now, what I need to know is that considered poaching when we're in fleets? I will pick a random MC. What's the name of our very brutal lady that likes to move us a lot?
Emmeline Farah.
Emmeline.
Yeah.
For example, if I pitch, hey, Cybernauts Corporation, this fleet is jointly run with Cybernauts. Join Cybernauts today, fight against Yam.
Yeah.
Is it poaching?
That's up to FC.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, I would argue that each FC will ultimately be able to decide what is and isn't appropriate within their own fleet. I mean, even Emma strongly supports the Cybernauts, but even she might not want that kind of a distraction in the middle of a certain thing, so she may decide to not want to have that in her fleet. So it's, as I said, it's completely up to the FC themselves whether or not that kind of post is appropriate in their fleet at any given time.
So
That
I'm
said,
going to negotiate on the one-on-one basis, which is what I've been doing so far. Okay, so I just keep negotiating with
FCs run their fleets. Like I can't until there's a real problem. Like that is a monolith that the EVE community has kind of gotten behind. You know, FCs have control over the fleets. If you start to undermine that basic core tenant, it has some pretty nasty ramifications in the long run.
Oh, we don't. We don't want that. So
yeah,
I
exactly.
just wanted to know if I was going the right way around it, or there was something else I needed to know.
I would stress that we aren't necessarily a separate and distinct thing from Swarm Fleet or anything else. It's more that those are public efforts, and therefore there has to be some sort of like organizational institutional body that makes it all work. So in the same way, say again?
It's one of our appendages.
Right. So in the same way, so Convocation of Empyreans doesn't, like, you don't have to be in the Convocation of Empyreans to run in my invasion fleets for the last year. But, you know, it's understood that, like, if you work with the Convocation of Empyreans a lot, then you're considered to be a member of the Convocation, even if you're not in the Alliance itself. What I've always liked to liken it to is like the YMCA, right? You can be a member of the YMCA without being like a card-carrying like admin that's being paid by and, you know, working for the YMCA. You can just be a member. So in the same sort of way, like the Cybernauts Corporation, our output, our offering, our corporate, you know, product is the organizational institutional efforts that it takes to forward the Cybernauts goals. So
then we are an alliance already, by definition.
Yeah. Well,
without the in-game links.
Correct. Yeah, I would. Yes, absolutely. I would argue that that's probably or a coalition of some form, or a convocation of some kind. But what I'm saying is that what I would do is say, hey, if you're interested in this stuff, you can all, you know, people will ask, is there a corporation I can join? And the answer is, yeah, you can join the Cybernauts if you want to be part of a corporation. You don't have to join any corporation to be part of the Cybernauts effort. But if you want to be in a corporation that shows that you are a Cybernaut, we do have a corporation called Cybernauts. And so far, that simple like offering of identity is sufficient.
Yes, I completely agree. That's what I've been working on. So far, I've been sending people to you. Is there other people? Sorry, you guys can all be the RPs, the political, the whatever. I define the entire realm. I will try and keep us on day-to-day things that you need to be done. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Beside you, who can I send people that want an invite into Cybernauts to?
Why can't you do it?
Oh. Do I have I didn't know. Did you give me the role? Can I invite people into Cybernauts?
If you do not have the role, then I would say that just given this conversation that you should. So I can fix that if you don't have it.
Okay. Give me the role. I will invite them myself.
Yeah. the answer is that if we have people that are interested in making things happen, then they should be empowered to be able to make them happen. All right, I'm going to stop the recording now, if that's okay, unless somebody else has something for the formal website or for the formal meeting, because it sounds like we're drifting into kind of nuances, and I'm going to have to start filling with stuff, and it's getting to be the end of it. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll get this video up ASAP.
This message has been approved by Zori and Triglav.
The Triglavian conglomerate. Yes, the Triglavian conglomerate. Thanks, Cities. Where is it? Participation. Where is it? Guarantee city. Okay, can we use that one again? Rephrase.
What, from Starship Troopers?
Yes, but
Yeah.
it's basically what we're saying.
Service guarantees
Triglavians
citizenship.
Yes, that.
Yeah, that's what the Triglavians are, but they didn't call it service. So what did we proving guarantees? Clade.
It's
join
guide and ground the flow, and you'll be glorified. Obstruct
Are we
and mortify the
planning-
flow, and you'll be extricated.
Are we planning on to stay just as a corporation and not join an alliance?
Well, so what we decided was people seem to really like the idea of trying to push the CCP to introducing us into as an NPC corporation, as it were.
Hell yeah.
But barring that, I will begin to talk to the alliance, the Triglavian Initiative alliance that's being kind of coalescing, to see whether or not that ends up being a good or bad idea for us.
Is there an
corporation.
Edencom corporation?
I prefer to stay as a corporation. I hate the fucking alliances and the politics. Like everyone wants to do this and that, and there's differences.
Yeah.
And that.
I mean, Aderon survived as just a corporation for a long time. Unless you're wanting to take actual sovereignty, taking an alliance or making an alliance, the only other kicker is that we don't get to have our own logo. But I mean, we kind of have our own logo, so
We
fuck
have a
off.
corp logo, man.
Not to mention,
We have
I'd
a
like to point
Triglavians.
out that we'd be able to be very picky with who we entered an alliance with, and we'd be able to make sure that their goals exactly aligned to ours as a condition of entering the alliance. I mean,
Yeah,
if it
or-
comes up,
and we
it'll
can also
come up.
just
If
leave.
it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Like, I'm
And
not-
yeah, we could just leave. It's an emergent sort of scenario. It's not something that we can really plan for. It's something that if another alliance comes along with similar mindsets supporting the Triglavians, then hey, maybe we join up together because we're both fine for the same side. But I agree with you otherwise. I don't want to get involved with all of the null sec, low sec bullshit politics. I'm here for the
Yeah. Look.
Triglavians.
My goal is to maximize our engagement with this content specifically. Anything that I can do to make this content better for us all is what I would like to focus on.
And we're more independent that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to look at it one way, the end of that content is for us to occupy Triglavian space and having all the perks and benefits that will come with it, if there is such things as perks and benefits. Now we can ally and turn alliance with anybody that wants to do the same thing and that just wants to fight Edencom in general. Now, once the war is over, whatever, if the war is ever over, we can totally break apart from that alliance and kill them because they occupy what we consider our territory.
Yeah, we can always fall into infighting or whatever. That's a whole nother story. The key is that this is the goal here is very similar to what it was with FedUp, where because we have an identity outside of any individual, right? This isn't Ashtarothi making an alliance because everybody thinks that Ashtarothi's awesome and wants to be part of his alliance. This isn't.
I gotta leave.
What?
That's exactly why I was here. I gotta leave.
Oh, well, I mean, you can be if you want to be, but I mean, that isn't the whole point. The whole point is that we have ideals and we have objectives that are almost pushed down to us from on high. So it isn't something that any individual ego can really influence. Our role is the content. The objective of the organization is kind of set by its path, by the flow, as it were, as opposed to just an alliance leader making arbitrary decisions about how things should be.
So, if I can ask again, you thought about CCP's intentions and stuff. So, from what I gathered from what they said on the server and stuff, they seemed kind of surprised by how, like, especially the Triglavian side of these things blew up in the last few weeks. Is that a correct estimation, or can you give a bit more insight or context?
Well, I mean, I think that so this is the very first feature that these guys have done. The people who are working on this content as developers. Sledgehammer was a QA guy. I think Coyote came from elsewhere, etc. So this is their baby, first of all. Also, as I just said, Sledgehammer is from QA, so I've noticed that he is significantly more reactive and responsive to player feedback and such than past developers leading charges. That being said, yeah, I mean, like, they were cautiously optimistic that this was going to be good, but like, this is one of the very first successful PvE like expansions or features in the history of EVE. Like, you got to think about it from CCP's perspective. They're used to coming out with thing after thing after thing and having it be like great in concept and then shit on in practice. And so, like, the idea that people are actually engaging with this and being really into it and passionate, but then on top of that, it also puts a lot of attention on this brand new emergent feature that has a lot of little bugs and a lot of little quirks, and there's a lot of mystery baked into it too, so that confuses things with the bugs and all that stuff. And so they're having to deal with this focus of, like, it was this small group of people who were interested in the lore and were interested in what was going on, and then suddenly now everybody gives a shit. And
they tried this before, with the the NPCs on the gates that blow you up with. But no one wanted to interact with those NPCs because they would always be calls in there.
You mean you talking about the Autothisian Lancers or the Rasnaborg?
Yeah, I think the Autothisian Lancers.
The Autothisian Lancers, which are the Circadian Seekers, are, I mean, the key to those were that they were always passive. But if you think about it, this was all the same thing, right? Like, this is, if you think about it, the Drifter attacks, the Drifter AI, the Triglavian invasions, this is all actually the same initiative. The Drifter AI came out of some of the struggles that they dealt with when it came to the Sanche AI. The Diamond Rats were one of the first products of the Drifter AI. The the invasion or the Abyss was a question of, well, what happens if you take the Drifter decision tree AI and you put it in a protected environment so that way they can throw as much CPU at it as they want after the Drifter incursions brought down the nodes. And
I think the
now,
reason that more people want to interact with this content is that because they can do PvP.
Well, yeah, I think that CCP has been working really hard on making A, better PvE, and B, PvEVP environments, where it's both PvP and PvE mixing together. But the key is that for the last 6 months or so, the player base has been largely ignoring it. So it's been growing and building, but the player base hasn't actually been looking at it. And now, suddenly, when Rarvos started to turn red, that was the moment that clicked for a lot of people. That was the moment where it was like, CCP isn't going to do it. There's so much dismissiveness and cynical nature and built up nullsec rhetoric and garbage built up, and then suddenly that system went nullsec, lowsec, and then nullsec, and everyone, like, it put things into perspective for people, I think.
Yeah, that was fun.
People realize that we are fighting for a cause, but some people fight for their homes because they live in that system and they don't necessarily want to be Triglavian.
Actually, did you see that yesterday? Did you hear about it? The Balgorn that jumped into Sakenta, and it was still high sec, and then it turned while he was alighting.
Oh no!
That was not fun for him.
Did you know that was one of Mike Azariah's staging systems?
I saw who that is.
I mean, I know we ruined War Decker's day, so that's a plus in my book.
I cannot fucking believe that the third liminality that we hit takes down Pirates main or Wardecking's headquarters. How the fuck does that even happen? Like when I read
Also,
that string, I knew that this would happen eventually. Like I knew that somebody's war was going to get disrupted because of a pull down to low sec, and I'm like, that is fantastic. But to have it happen on the third one, 2 jumps from Jita as fucking Pirates capital, it's like, god damn it, man. Like, could CCP have planned that? Like, Jesus.
No,
and I know that they didn't.
Never.
No, I like, so for the record, like, I'm gonna say this, like, CCP has privately assured me that so far the selection process has been, while not random, is based on, like, it is computer controlled. They're not picking the targets. The Triglavians are picking the targets.
During the weekends, and sometimes for some specific events, they do pick a target, and they've been hinting that the third luminality will be, the third target for luminality will probably be going on this weekend because that's the highest play time, and that there will be something significant about it.
So, took it, Shep. SAC, we took it at 4:20 a.m. So,
nice.
It's currently second liminality. It's about to be taken. Zeta Fleet is still there cleaning up. We scram to help Agafir stay in Triglavian influence.
It's so good. Like, I'm so excited for Content Pit. I refuse to call that system by its slave name. It's only triangles now.
Yeah, I wish I knew how to pronounce that.
Well, I mean, triangle-wise, it's literally the same word. It's just in triangles, but it's just a font change. But my point is that I'm calling this system now Content Pit, and somebody's going to have to stop me if they're going to want to call it something else.
No, it's Content Pit.
The Content Pit. It's 2 jumps from fucking Jita. Are you serious? Like, every fucking streamer is just like, let's just grab a battleship and go to the Content Pit.
Yeah. Malvula's probably an hour or 2 away from flipping the first 2.
A question that I'm not sure has been addressed yet. I know we're not like doing too much like discrete ops. I know it's mostly public, but what about the kind of stuff that we do want to be a little bit more private about, like say like black ops or like capital stuff if these the low sec systems actually turn?
We do need better sec ops because
just at least like a little bit of screening, like say we wanted to talk about these concepts without airing them public.
Yep. And we have enough authority on this Discord to make channels that have various different levels of protection, and we can evolve that as we need to. Whatever. I'm not like, yeah. The key is though, the best thing to do is to keep a very broad blast of information, because it almost all invariably ends up that holding information from your own people ends up doing more damage than any leak to a spy. So that being said, also, once you have that nice blast of information that's constantly ongoing, that actually provides really good cover for covert operations to be able to be moving in the background, right?
And if you want to do that, please stand up and do it, because I have no interest in running such a thing.
Right. So if you're interested in clandestine or like secretive stuff, we do have managers and management, and we are doing stuff, but that is obviously, that isn't going to be discussed in a meeting like this, because that's the entire fucking point.
I need to cover a little bit of admin stuff, if you don't mind.
Shoot, I've got a couple more minutes.
Okay. So everybody, you can right click on your name and you can edit your name, and you can put your tag in front of your name. Our tag is CLKBY, as you can see it. Put it in front of all your names on Discord, at least on this server. It will help greatly within fleets and stuff for people to be able to identify the number of people that belong to Kybernote. Second thing, once you've tagged up within, and pass the word as much as you can. Asterosh is probably going to send a Corp mail about it. Second thing, I am willing to do the work. So, in game, do send an email to vShepard saying, "Hey, this is my Discord name. I've tagged up. Can you check my rights?" And I will go one by one, and I will make sure that everybody that's tagged up has the right permissions. That's it. Admin time finished. For me, at least. If anybody has any other little admin thing that they want to bring.
No, I appreciate it, and a lot of people are doing it right now, including myself. I also want to, since I just looked at the chat, I want to bring to everyone's attention, you know, make sure when you get an opportunity, if you like Cybernaut.space, pat Isabel on the back, say thank you, give him a beer. This motherfucker, like, has a, okay, so a couple weeks ago, I was like, man, I need a way for us to report the information of any given system in HiSec. Just be able to paste some basic information and check to see if there's an emerging conduit or a Rasnaborg. And I told him this at 11 o'clock at night, and he had it up and running by 6 o'clock the next morning.
Good God.
He has single-handedly made every single thing that you have seen on Cybernaut.space so far. So,
with AP
okay.
here, Jesus.
Isabel, the
Cyrus,
champion, and I appreciate
you got
it.
the BY back. It's YB, not BY.
Yeah,
Wait.
Kyber.
Oh, well.
He's dyslexic too.
It's okay. That was Isabel. Isabel Linrakova in chat.
Another small thing. What do we do about politics in the in-Eve sense of the word? Like today, our plans were basically scrambled around a good bit when Volta decided to invade one of the systems themselves and murder our fleet.
Whenever dealing with third-party entities, especially nullsec, I prefer to go towards them with the framework of, I'm sorry, you must not know the secret to how to contribute to the Cybernaut success. Like, here's the thing, I don't care if people come and fight in these systems. That's the fucking point. The key to it, though, is that everybody can fight among themselves as long as all of them have invading precursor entities removed and retaliating entities added to their overview, so that way they're fighting the right people as well as alongside the players that they're fighting. And as long as that's true, then we're good to go. So, you know, if they come in and they're smashing down the place, just try to inform them how to do it correctly. If they don't want to do it correctly, all we can do is try to convince them to be on our side. The most impactful change or thing is that right now supporting Edencom is supporting Sino-jamming low-sec. And if that doesn't move them and if they're there to help out Edencom, then I guess that's just the nature of the beast, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Do we get our Domovic plushies?
When I get my Zoria Triglav body pillow, apparently. Like, I never even thought of, like, that is not my shtick. I'll just put it that way. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to own one way or another at this point. I'll just be honest. It's my choice. It's probably just going to show up.
It will. Now, finding one, that's going to be the fun part.
Oh boy. Anywho, yeah, so most of all, I just want to thank everybody for, like, coming in and being cool about all of this, you know. Like, this has been something I've been involved, at least to me, this has been just like a journey up until this point. So having all you guys kind of come in and be down with taking part and enjoying kind of what's here and what's going on has me really, really excited. So thank you guys for coming and taking part in this and giving a shit enough to give up your Saturday and give up your whatever Eve story you were making up until this point. You guys are all awesome people. And I think that one of the valuable things when it comes to a lot of these questions with politics and other stuff like that is that the Kybernaut message is so inherently the message of capsuleers, like the player, like just a player of a video game, that I think it's just too easy for us to resolve those kinds of things, right? Like, it's like, I don't care if you come and fight me. I don't care if you want to come and shit on everything, as long as, you know, because we actually, that's what we support. That's our motivation. That's what we are fighting for, is your right to be able to do that, you know? So if Essence, you know, like, all we have to do is just be exemplary Empyreans and we will be good Kybernauts.
Perfect.
So after all this invasion stuff is said and done, because it's not going to last forever, but after everything is said and done, is the Kybernaut Corp still going to be a thing?
I certainly
that's hard to speculate on.
Here.
It's super hard to speculate on because we don't know what that means for it to be quote unquote over. This isn't an event, it's a feature. So the invasion system is a new system. This just happens to be being used to have invasion, Triglavians invading this area. This feature could easily just be used for Caldari to invade Galente, or Angel to invade, Sancha or whatever else, right? So I foresee this being used and expanded upon more than it just being a thing that, like, okay, and now we go back to a normal world where we aren't doing invasions. That being said, the story itself with the Triglavians and the empires and Edencom, like the story, the narrative that we are going through, I have no idea where that's going to go, and it seems like there's going to be a few twists and turns along the way. So I would say that Kybernauts are going to continue to be in that mentality, but if the story ends up with where I move on to the next thing, or the Kybernauts itself dissolves, or we join the Triglavian Collective and just become an NPC Corp, like, I don't fucking know where this path ends.
What I can tell you is that even if I have to pick up the pieces or whatever, I've decided to do that for myself. It's a goal that I've set. There will be an entity that will be playing for and as Triglavians within this game, so long as I'll be playing. So I can guarantee you that, at least. If it's stability you're looking for. Now, people may go and move and, change, and maybe like half of Kybernauts will become, I don't know, Sunshine Invasion Force. I don't know. That's the future. But I'll be keeping Triglavians running. If that's up.
Warp drive active.
And that sounds solid. I like that idea.
I really like Sunshine Invasion Force, honestly.
Well, the Hiveling for Narania must be extirpated.
That is a very good question. Are we taking Fighter Drifter Hive incursions? At the moment, I'd say no, because that's not our focus. In the long term, I'd say yes, because they're the Triglavian end.
I'm going to say yes. Tentative yes. I was already interested in doing Drifter Hive fleets as at least once a week. And this is only going to kick that into a higher gear. Besides, Drifter drugs are awesome, and we're going to want some of that space bread.
Done one, I'm in.
Okay.
How's it going?
Doing all right. How are you?
Good. I'm actually, so I am literally like almost out the door, just for the record.
I just didn't know what was going on. I figured I would come.
Yeah, we just ended a meeting. Oh shoot! I need to start the upload for this.
We can fill you in.
You guys are running a fleet. I'll leave you to whatever you. Peace out.
Nope. Yeah. Well, no, this we're talking as a corporation, Kybernet Corp. So we're discussing.
If you are in the Kybernet Corp, please right-click on your name and tag up and send an in-game mail to vShipit so I can assign you all the right rights and permissions.
I am not. Thank you, though.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Have a good one, man.
Right. Name. Following the flows, guaranteeing Clade membership. I'm still working on that phrase.
Well, I guess it's time to get back to killing some Eden scum.
Exactly.
I mean, I got my Proteus ready. I'm about to go to a Geffy.
I want to belt Macariel so bad.
I actually built a RT Macariel that works really, really great for this. The ability to just be able to change, damage type ammo on the fly, and to have the problem with battleships so far is that they're super slow aligned, and Macariel doesn't have half that problem.
Like, when I'm playing battleships in these fleets, I can't even lock on to ship before it's dying. I have to play in cruiser.
What?
Well,
Macariel with two. So you have is this so I want a Macariel that can solo in the belts.
Oh, okay. That's a completely different discussion. I'll leave it. The Macariel I built was for fleet.
Sarah's dropping back up to fleet comms. Thanks for everything, guys. Looking forward to
have a good one.
Future, yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. One last thing though. If you need to get a hold of me, I still spend a lot of my voice comm time in the Convocation of Empyreans public Discord, because that's where, whatever. But like, there's an invite. You can just join that Discord and be part of those comms and stuff too if you want. If you ever need to hunt me down, and I'm not here, or DM me.
Send me. Oh, actually, no. I got your private chat. It's good enough to get a hold of you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, so I spend a lot of time just hanging. Like, we hang out in comms there all the time, just like ready to go, but answering questions, and Fonsui and I debating about shit.
And you guys spread the word, like, if anybody is looking at leadership roles, like, now's the time to start putting your name forward. So pass a message to everybody. Let people put their names forward. Where could we put that? We need a text channel that doesn't get written. Roles channel, maybe? Where people can like X up to a role that they will, and then type in the role
we can do that
would
for
like. I mean, it's not gonna happen overnight. We don't even know if the role that you want is something that we're gonna do, but at least we know that there is somebody that wants to do it and put the time, effort, and energy to do it. Well, as the man said, time to kill Eden scum and all that.
I'm gonna take off too, but thanks guys, I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Thank you for coming.
Warp drive active.